Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Uh, Welcome to another one episode of Mike on Mike. Hello, Sis. Hello, Atrox.
Hello, guys. Hello. I want to welcome you as well to
Hey,
the podcast. We have a very special, unique guest for you guys today. You're going to learn a lot about esports players in other countries. Mike, you want to introduce our guest?
We want to present to the Greek esports community uh, a different player, a player from a different country and from a different game than League of Legends. We have an ex Overwatch uh, current Apex player, Jasper Yue Wei Xiang. Hello, uh, Yuris. How are you?
hey, I'm doing great. Hello.
Welcome,
Hello.
welcome to the podcast.
Welcome.
So, uh, starting a little bit differently, because you are our first Apex player
Yeah.
invited. Present us yourself.
Ooh, all right. So I've actually been playing video games since maybe the age of 6. So
Ooh.
I kind of got into esports by chance. So I've been playing competitively maybe the last 8 to 9 years of my life. I started off in Team Fortress 2, move on to Overwatch, and then now I'm currently in Apex Legends. So I play for Team SRY in Apex Legends Pro League in the Apex South region. Yeah. So maybe a few interesting things about me is that I've I actually have played most of my competitive life outside of Southeast Asia, and only in the last couple of years have I returned to play for Asian teams in the APAC region.
Okay, okay, very interesting. You are from Singapore, right?
Yep, I'm from Singapore.
It's pretty interesting and very important for us to have a person from the Asian community, a big esports community, like we know from League of Legends that South Korea and China are the two big rivals in the LoL community. We have seen in Overwatch League the Asian community making great with several teams, and I think that also in Apex, a very new game in competitive era that is making stage now. So, how did you decide to get into esports?
Ooh,
What was this thing that made you say that I will start getting into the competitive scene and start exploring this universe?
so it all happened by chance. So what actually happened was that when I was in school, still when I was in secondary school, when I was probably like around the age 12 and stuff, I was actually big into doing real life sports and everything. So I had the competitive nature in me already. But like at that point in time, I also got big into playing video games. So my classmates were like telling me that, hey, Jasper, there's this thing in Team Fortress 2 where you can play for money and like people actually compete against each other. So my friend happened to actually sign me up for like one of those academy classes to play competitive. I gave it a try and I never looked back ever since. So I kind of started from there and I really took esports seriously when I went into Overwatch, when they introduced the entire Overwatch League, contenders, all the fancy stuff that came with the Overwatch Pro scene. Yeah, so that's how I actually started in esports. But I think for like most Southeast Asians, getting into esports is it's a lot about the LAN and cyber cafe culture, because like there is a big culture of that in Asia that I think it's missing out in a lot of Western countries, and it's still going strong in Asia. And that's where most of like the friendly rivalries and like the competitive spirit starts from. Yeah.
Was a whole new experience for you getting in competitive and advancing the team spirit in an organization than in what was used to be playing in your room with your friends, etc.
Oh, definitely. It's just like I always give the example of comparing yourself to being a self-owned business and having investors in your business. You see, being in a competitive team with like people investing in you and everything means that you are actually responsible for the results you put up. And you have to answer to someone at the end of the day because someone pays your paycheck essentially.
Yeah.
And like there is a very stark contrast because when I'm sitting at home and I'm playing myself before I'm signed to an org or a team, the stakes aren't really there. Let's say if I want to miss out on scrims today because I want to do something else, it's fine, I can do it. But if I'm skipping out of practice or like I'm not performing well, then there's a lot more stress and pressure on me as an individual. And like that's one of the big difference I felt when I signed on to my first esports team. I felt that there were a lot of responsibilities and stuff that like won't talk about. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of like competitive players really do talk about like how stressful it is when they get signed compared to when it was before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Was it easy for you combining education, school, university, or anything else with your esports career?
Oh, it definitely wasn't easy for a Singaporean like me. So I'll speak in the shoes of like a Singaporean. So
Mm-hmm.
what happened was that when I reached the peak of my Overwatch career, I was actually about to get signed and like play full time. But I
Mm-hmm.
found out that I had to do military service. So in Singapore, you have to do a compulsory of 2 years of military service if
Damn.
you're a male. Yeah. So at my peak, I had to do military service, and I couldn't commit to signing on and playing full time contenders. And like as a result of that, my esports career actually got pushed back. Also, when you're signed up to the military legally in Singapore, you're not allowed to work for any other company or you're not allowed to have other sources of income. So that means that first of all, I couldn't play for any esports team. Legally, on paper, I couldn't sign to any esports team. And most importantly, it's a 9 to 5 kind of job. So I didn't have time to compete and practice as much. So it's really, really hard for me at that point in time.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you have an experience of any sport like basketball, football, soccer, tennis, or anything else?
Mm,
Uh, and
I I'm actually
any similarities between esports and sports?
I did very interesting sports. Instead of like the more contemporary sports that you just mentioned, I did a lot of rock climbing and bouldering. There is a very strong similarity in like climbing sports and esports in a sense where problem solving is really on the fly. In a sense where, like when you're climbing, you're solving the problem as the problem comes about. As you're climbing up the wall. And I think that's something that it's very really common amongst the two. The game is always changing. Like you always get different scenarios every time you rock climb, every time you climb, and you just have to get creative and be able to adapt to different situations. That's one of the biggest skills that I think I brought across from like traditional sports to esports.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because there is a big taboo when talking about esports. I think not only in Greece but in every country and in every continent that if you get along with esports and have your time there, professionally or not, or less professionally, you give time of yourself, time of your education, your part the society or whatever else is compulsory, and don't focus just only in esports. And it's important hearing that uh, everything from military, sports, esports, education, every aspect of anyone's life, it's a part that improves him and improves uh, other parts of other things that are like hobbies or part of their life. So, um, about esports and presenting to us some of your first steps in esports, let's talk about your two big um, competitive scene appearances, your two societies that live in yourself, one of the Overwatch society community and the other of Apex. So you had pretty good career in Overwatch. You had lots of experience and advanced technology and esports spirit in Singapore. I think it would be a great start for getting involved in esports. What were your experience at that time?
Sorry, I couldn't get the last part down. I didn't hear it. Your mic was cutting off the last part. Do you
Oh,
mind repeating it?
okay.
Or like, can you like DM me the question so like I could see it?
I was talking about how was discovering esports from the Overwatch perspective, uh, knowing a competitive game in high-elo teams, etc. In Overwatch, getting along with other person. How was that
Mm.
experience for you?
So I think the one big thing when I was competing in Overwatch at its highest level possible, or like one below the highest level, because Overwatch League was the highest, Contenders was the second. People there that were playing in Contenders and in that circuit were people that were committed. They were people that had passion for the game, and I think that is one big thing that I noticed. It was my teammates were equally as passionate about me about the game they were playing, and a lot of times, like this was an experience that I truly felt that was not really replicable because I did work compared to other esports players. I did work a lot of I did work as a in a creative marketing agency before I came into play esports. And I realized that in real life workplaces, not everyone that you talk about is equally as passionate about the game or as passionate about what they're doing. You get me? So like when I came into esports and when I started playing for fully sponsored teams and orgs, I realized that everyone there was passionate, and it just felt good to know that people reciprocating the amount of energy and amount of like effort and love you put into the game. And that was one of the best feelings. Maybe the hardest part about it is that is working with equal people equally as passionate about you was that people are very hot headed about the way they think about things, and like they're very insistent about the way they see certain things in the game. Just like in every workplace, there are people that want things to be done in a certain manner, and it takes a lot of effort and it takes convincing and it takes like a coach to come in to like talk the team and to diffuse the situation. It never got toxic, but it did feel that at some point in time, everyone was just you know putting their emotions on the table because in esports your career is really short, and like in a lot of esports titles you're playing in a team, and in Overwatch it's 6 players back then, and it's like 6 players together sometimes do make for very intense situations and debates and discussions, so like I have had great moments with them, but at the same time I have had like 4 or 5 hours arguments and like strategy meetings with them, about certain ideas we didn't see eye to eye. But like I said, at the end of the day, just high elo things that I just talked about are like behind closed doors, and like I don't think a lot of people talk about it publicly. But these are moments that I feel make esport a lot more fun and a lot more interesting.
Uh, did you play with only Singaporean players, or did you also have
Ah,
people from several countries, Europe?
so let me do a quick count of nationalities I've played with. I've played with European players, Taiwanese players, Hong Kong players, Australians, that's for sure, New Zealanders. I play with a couple of American players as well. So I can say I'm pretty international. I've played with you know, quite a bit of the global population in my time.
Was that interesting getting along with people from other countries and knowing their culture, meeting other ways of life, other habits, other time zones?
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like I think a big difference when I play with other players of different nationality is that you can tell how their culture plays a part into the personality they bring to the team and like the way they solve problems and diffuse situations. Like a great example of it is that when I was playing more towards my Western teammates, like the Europeans and the American players, a lot of times they put a big emphasis on team bonding. But by team bonding, it didn't mean that we'd had to play the game itself. We could be chatting in Discord, we could be hanging out, basically build social chemistry. But when I hang out with a lot of the more Asian teammates, like the more Taiwanese, Korean teammates, they put a lot of emphasis about playing the game itself, because they believe that hours played in the game means that you'll form team chemistry that way, and that's the more efficient way they saw how things should be done. And there's a lot of interesting like differences here and there in like how culture plays a part into the kind of players they are.
Hmm. And so after Overwatch comes Apex, and transition in not in your game style, but because we still talk about FPS games, but if decided to change the game, things for Overwatch community starting getting a little bit different. So you take the decision and you start playing Apex. How did you decide to go in the Apex community?
Ooh, okay. So this is gonna be a bit of a story time. So it happened because Overwatch was having a downfall. Yeah, and I think you guys probably heard the news in esports as well. Over the last couple of years before Overwatch 2 came out, Overwatch 1 wasn't actually doing well in its esports scene. So there wasn't much money there. And more importantly, Overwatch, the Blizzard team decided that they wanted to merge the Southeast Asian region with the Australian region for contenders. So that meant that Southeast Asia was gonna have lesser slots to play for, and at the end of the day, there wasn't gonna be a Southeast Asian region anymore. So that was one of the reasons why I left the seat, because there was lesser money to play for and there was lesser direct support from EA, and not EA, sorry, direct support from Blizzard itself. Yeah. So when I transitioned to Apex, the reason for moving to Apex was because I I kind of like the battle royale format. I've been playing. I had like thousands of hours of PUBG before coming in, and I like what I like the hero shooter aspect that they had that felt similar to
Uh,
Overwatch, but in a battle royale style. So that was one of the
okay.
big reasons why I came over. And like was set to launch with Apex was set to launch eventually with a competitive scene with like proper support and everything. And it is the ALGS that eventually they launched with. That's why I moved over. And practically, I'm gonna be realistic about it and like say it also is because there was more money at play in EA and Respawn's hands than like Blizzard had.
Yeah. Yeah. I see. I see. Uh it's a little bit tough question because we all have talked to Valorant players, Apex players, PUBG, um, Overwatch. Do you think that with Overwatch 2, there would be a chance of you returning at any time back in Overwatch?
Ooh,
Is
that is a hard question.
it,
The
it,
real
it
the Mhm.
it's
Sorry, go ahead.
it's two parts inside the everyone FPS player that has changed a game,
Yeah.
finding something that has been lost being revived again and making an esoteric battle to go back. So yeah, tell us your view.
So I think Overwatch, the original Overwatch, right? The Overwatch 1 on release day, it's in the Hall of Fame of games. By Hall of Fame of games, I'm referring to a couple of titles that are up there as well. There are games that no matter what happened, no matter who says what about it, you will always have golden memories of it. You have great memories. In that category of games I see, there's Overwatch, there's Counter Strike, there's Dota. Basically, the Quake as well. They're legacy games that no one can ever take their place in the community. There will never be another game that can replicate its formula for success. Yeah, and like the truthful answer to it is, I love Overwatch, but I don't like Overwatch 2. But if I'm given the chance to play the base Overwatch game at launch again, I will take the opportunity. The reason for like it is because I've got so much fond memories of the game. I built so much love, so much family, so much great moments there that like it is it's part of me now. Even
Emotionally,
right
you
now,
are
I look
there.
back at it. Yeah, emotionally, I am very attached to the game.
Yeah.
I love it for what it is. But at the same time, the game has moved away from what it used to be. I think you hear this in a lot of other like communities. Now, I think the most common time you hear this is Halo players talking about how different Halo is from like when Halo used to be or where Halo used to be, And that's the kind of feeling that I have, yeah. I love the game, I love the nostalgia it is, but I don't have faith in Blizzard to bring the moments back. But if given the chance to play pro, I will take it. But whether I stay with the game for like an extended period, that's a different thing, you know.
Can I ask
That's
a
what I feel about
question?
it.
As a well, most of the people, well, some do, but when I was younger, I used to play Call of Duty professionally. Well, not professionally, but at a pretty high level. And as the game progressed, the mechanics of the game changed like so much that like it I found it really really hard to adapt into the new era of Call of Duty, the games like Black Ops 3 and later on. I want to ask you how hard or easy it was, because I don't know. I generally I'm interested in this. How was it from a mechanical point of view um, to get into like Overwatch for your first game and then transition into Apex? Was it hard? And how did you like feel the games, like your mechanics change?
So that's actually a great question because I know where you're coming from because I actually played Call of Duty semi-professionally during the Black Ops 4 era because like
Oh, nice.
I don't you remember Black Ops 4 was like a lot of hero shooter elements. There's like ultimates, there's like
Yeah,
abilities, stuff
yeah.
like this. So, like good Overwatch players went over to like join Call of Duty money, you know, just to get money. But I know that's a great question. So like I think the thing about Overwatch that people have to understand is that games like Overwatch and Paladins hero shooters, they're actually in a very very niche category of games in a sense where they lend elements and like uh how do I say assets ideas from other games. You know, they lend mobile elements from like
Yeah.
Dota, League of Legends. They lend FPS elements from like COD, Gears of War, things like that, and they put them together. So Overwatch is actually a really really hard game to play at a professional level, and because you've got all that skill set in you already as a professional player, it's easy then to transition to other titles. You see, Overwatch is one of those games where the learning curve is so steep, but it's so rewarding to be at the top because we have seen historically Overwatch professional players have an ease of mind when transitioning to other esports games. You know, when they want to try other stuff out. So that's like I don't like that's why I'm blessed to have played like the predecessor to Overwatch, which was Team Fortress 2, the
Yeah.
class hero shooter. So I've got
Mhm.
that, and then I had an easy time moving to Overwatch and then transitioning out of Overwatch.
So you
But the skill
think
set that I've learned in Overwatch is still used in like all these other games I play to this day.
so you think it did help you get into the newer, like not newer, but
Oh,
from Team Fortress to Overwatch, like it helped you.
definitely, definitely. And uh, I say in a sense where I think we're starting to notice modern day FPS games that are being released being a lot more simplified and being a lot less mechanically demanding like
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
older titles used to be, and therefore it is easier for also us Overwatch players to transition into it. You see, because I'll be real with you, man. Overwatch players, if you tell them to play Quake right now, they are not gonna have an ease of time transitioning kind of thing. But if you tell an Overwatch player to convert to a Warzone player,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
easy,
yeah.
you know. So like so like we're in a pretty comfortable spot with Overwatch, and like I like it, you know. I like having have had that in my career.
Did
And like
you say, of course, go ahead.
oh yeah, and I think that one thing is if you have Overwatch in your portfolio or Overwatch in your resume,
Yeah,
a lot of like esports coaches or a lot of esports managers and like team owners see it and they go, oh, that's actually a big plus, you know, 'cause Overwatch has a lot of weight to it in terms of like the esports
mechanical.
reputation it has. Yep.
Yeah. Did you enjoy um how do I say that? Um, did you? I haven't played Team Fortress myself, so I'm not really aware of how the mechanics of the game at least work. But is it more mechanical than Overwatch, or like how is Team
So
Fortress in a mechanical point of view?
so it takes mechanics in a different direction. So Overwatch is mechanically harder. We must understand first that Overwatch is mechanically harder because there is there is a way more different classes and there's like different classes play different and like they have a different aim style, movement style, everything like that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
But in a source engine game, all your characters play off the same fundamental physics of the game, you know? Other
Yeah.
than the exception of like maybe the demo man or the soldier that could like sticky jump or rocket jump, everyone else moves the same and plays the same. So mechanically, it is pretty different already. When we're talking more about Team Fortress 2, with less of a um it's less of a like understanding check of like heroes and stuff, and it's more of a mechanical check. Get me?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But like if you play Overwatch, it's a combination of both. Because like for example, if you know how far a tracer blink is, you could preemptively move your crosshair to where the blink can be or should be, and then wait for the tracer to blink over there. You see?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I understand, I
But like if
understand.
you're playing Team Fortress 2, you're tracking a guy that's like diagonally rocket jumping 3 times,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
he's
yeah.
built different momentum. So it's like they're both different, They're both different in their own little way. But like
Yeah,
the more important thing is to understand that it's Overwatch was built onto TF2's success, which is the class-based shooter element, So
yeah,
certain class
Yeah.
play a certain way kind of thing. For example, like I always give this good example that Pharah is actually the easier version of Soldier to play. Pharah is just
okay.
basically the simplified Soldier, because like to learn rocket jumping in TF2, it's a skill that takes you a couple of 100 hours, to perfect the way to jump, right? But
Yeah,
in Overwatch, you just press one button and your character just oops, he just flies in the air,
yeah,
kind of thing. Yeah, so the difficulty and the mechanical ceiling is different in two different senses. Can I don't think it's fair to compare them to each other, but it's just good to know how they are different.
yeah.
Yeah.
I want to ask something else. Did you, from my experience, when getting from the older versions of Call of Duty, like from, I don't know, Code 4 to Black Ops 2, then transitioning into the newer era with Black Ops 3, Black Ops 4, like, um, I really like, I don't want to say hate that much, but I really did not like how the game progressed in a mechanical like perspective, because the game like all the older games were much, like, I want to say simpler, but not, they weren't simple, but they were just enough for me to get interested in them mechanically. Um, like I feel like the game where it was, when it was simpler for players to play, the I kind of want to say that it was more nostalgic for me to think of the older versions. Do you think, for example, did you enjoy transitioning into the from Team Fortress to Overwatch, or you feel um, like, how do you say that? Um, like if you had to choose, like if like the competitive environment for those two games were exactly the same, like the money were the same or the audience was the same, would you choose a game that was more, that was simpler to play and
Oh,
was,
okay.
or
I get your question.
yeah,
Yeah. So my personal opinion is okay. So it probably takes a bit of explanation. So
of course, yeah,
I I get your point of the Call of Duty thing, because like in my head, how I see it is, if given a choice, even if given a choice today, with audience size and everything, right? I'll
yeah,
tell without a shadow of a doubt, I still want to be a Team Fortress 2 pro player. In fact, I want to be a CS:GO pro player. But
yeah,
like those games are like way, 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 way out of my league now. The
yeah, yeah,
reason
yeah,
being because those games are simple and they're built on the idea of achieving perfection or chasing perfection, you see. But in more modern day shooters and like Call of Duty and like Overwatch now, right? It's not about perfection. Perfection is hard to chase for, you get me?
yeah,
Because of
yeah,
how diluted
difficult,
the game is with all these different mechanics and stuff, right?
yeah,
It's more about finding your own little niche category and like pushing it. It's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
back in the day, if you're a COD player, you need to know how to play AR, Flex, SMG. You need to know how to play everything, right? But as an Overwatch pro today, you could just be a support player and call it a day. You don't have to know how
yeah,
to play
yeah.
DPS. You don't need to know how to play tank. Period.
That's a really
And
nice
like
insight, by the way.
yeah, so like as a pro player, right? I'm more of a chasing perfection kind of person. But I know for a fact, and we know for a fact today, that devs today like to make the game easier to play. And we know that a lot of casual players hate the idea of chasing perfection, because a part of creating a game that chases perfection, or like the simplistic style of shooter, is that eventually in matchmaking and in casual play, casual players will just get rolled over by like people that have more hours than them, simply
Yeah, yeah,
because of that. And there's no way for them to like play back or like play on an even playing field. That's why you see Call of Duty when Black Ops 4 came out, they went a different route. They had in like abilities and stuff like this. You
yeah,
had like characters that one shotted you. That you can have any play counterplay towards. But like that's the thing about it. I don't hate those games. I didn't hate my time playing it professionally, but I just enjoyed more playing games that were much simpler, games that would strive for perfection. In your
yeah,
play
yeah.
in
I
this region.
Yeah.
totally feel you with that. I 100% agree.
But it's an interesting thought, because like I know pro players that enjoy the complexity of games like this, yeah. But it is just not my thing. I simply when I want to play the game, I want to strive to be the best player possible in a sense where
Yeah,
I true and true understand how to play the game fundamentally, can play every role the game offers me, kind
yeah,
of
yeah.
thing.
Of course.
I don't want to
Yeah.
be like shoehorned into playing one position, stuck in that one position. If I want to transition out of it, I have to explain to my coaches, spend another couple hundred hours, things like this and that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's why I don't know if you guys played back in the days of Overwatch, but that's why if you hear a
Sure.
lot of the OG professional players talk about it, reminisce about the days when there wasn't role queue, where your teams where you wasn't locked to queuing for specific roles before you enter the game, because that added a level of like complexity to the game. Like you had to coordinate with your team, you had to be able to play every other role that was in the game, in case
yeah,
you didn't get your role that you wanted, kind of thing. Yeah, but that's a great
Okay.
question. Like back to it, I would be a pro TF2 player too, definitely.
yeah. I feel that.
Mm, did you ever try playing a non FPS game like card games or
Mm,
League of Legends or strategy
that
games?
I've actually played a couple of hundred, like couple, I would say 1,000 or so hours of teamfight tactics already. I used to play a lot of Hearthstone and Battlegrounds as well. I was like legend plus rank and like decently high up on the Hearthstone leaderboards. And so I played quite a lot of strategy games in my free time as well.
But you would never see those games as competitive games.
Mm, Not that I wouldn't see them as competitive games, but it's I might be wrong when I say this, but from my time playing those games, I didn't see a way for me to enjoy playing those games competitively.
Okay.
Evolve, maybe.
Sorry?
Maybe didn't find you didn't quite see the way to evolve. Is that a thing?
Yeah, yeah, yep. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah,
Yeah,
and it's more like I didn't see myself playing those like as if okay. Let's say they were jobs. I didn't see those jobs
yeah,
having better future than what I had already. They weren't gonna transition me to other titles and stuff like that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Um, Singapore and especially countries like South Korea, China, Japan, uh, especially the Asian countries, have a very good environment developed for esports player, not only for games like FIFA Pro or games like that, but also for games like League of Legends, Valorant, Overwatch. Uh, how how do you see uh, this participation of state recognizing what the esports are and how did this affect your life as an esports player?
So I grew up in a time where esports wasn't a thing yet, and like and like I'm glad that I grew up in that period of time because it allows me to see what esports has grown into now. Esports is now widely accepted and everything. But still, in Southeast Asia, the one big problem that we have still is that mobile esports is bigger than PC esports. The reason for it is very simply because mobile is just a much more accessible way, you know, of life. That most people don't have. Like a lot of people don't have a PC, and as a result of it, right, PC esports is constantly being overshadowed by mobile esports in this region of the world. It's not a bad thing. It's just more like a how do I say it? Ah, for lack of better way to put it, is that it's like budget esports. If you get me, mobile esports will never
Yes.
be what PC
Yes.
esports will be in terms of like the game complexity and things like that. Yeah. Uh, and one thing about this region of the world that I think foreign people, like foreign audiences, always get it wrong, is that esports has always been thriving in this region of the world, but it's just never known. It was never known as esports back then. We had a lot of like I was
Exactly.
saying earlier, mobile cyber cafe culture, PC bang culture, right? And there were really friendly competitions, and like back in the days, the owners of those shops would host like their mini like Dota tournament, Warcraft tournament here and there, right? So there was
Yeah.
always a healthy esports local scene already. It wasn't known as esports, like that, it was just a local tournament, you see. So it was just a matter of time where this local tournaments would just grow bigger, bigger and bigger, and like more people would just get involved in it, you see. So esports really didn't have a boom in Southeast Asia. It just over the years had a more legitimate platform to showcase itself. That's what I think.
Yeah. I used to have experiences like talking with my parents and talking about an early view of gaming that was playing cards like
Mhm,
poker or something like that, or playing
mhm,
several things that you may see them something like a parallel to esports, and that's how a kid habit from something that brings joyfulness is conserved in your lifetime, your future, and you make this not only a professional environment, but also something that still brings you and the people around you joyfulness. Um, on uh, basically just talk about uh, how how can you see a state evolving around that thing, because in Europe, especially Greece, there are many countries that not evolved so much in esports. We have asked several persons, had several views from the state taking um, an action and saying, okay, I'm gonna to make esports something official. It's something bigger that not only FIFA players and players like that um, compete, participate, but we had also views like the people that are inside the esports can start something uh, like an association or a federation and promote uh, the team spirit of esports and what esports are. What is your opinion around that?
I've actually have a really, I would say, conflicting public opinion on um esports organization and things like that. Because I think maybe I'm wrong on this, and I'm ready to hear you guys' opinion on it. In fact, but I think the more esports becomes a regulated and controlled segment by the government and like greater bodies, the less esports it becomes. It loses less of its grassroots spirits. You see. And I'm a big fan of keeping esports to esports itself. I don't think everything needs to be regulated, and like it's good to have regulations. Don't get me wrong, regulations, policies, people, like helping to keep the scene in check and everything. But the more corporate esports becomes, the less esports is esports. You get me? And
Yeah,
like I always say this with like the best intentions for esports.
yeah,
I think it's nice that governments and stuff are starting to care about esports, but I feel that a lot of people are going into it. A lot of governments and a lot of like politicians are going into it with the idea of growing esports so that they can bring in more money for themselves, or like whatever cause they're there for. And it fundamentally ruins what esports is, because remember esports, like we know back in the days, all started with small little competitions,
yeah.
and like
Tournaments.
gatherings and things like this, yeah.
Yeah,
And like a lot of that spirit is starting to lose, a lot of the esports spirit is starting to lose its value and lose itself,
they
in
get
the last
into
couple
more
of
of the
years when esports
business.
is starting, yeah, it's starting to be a business, and everything is starting to be scrubbed, like everything is starting to get scrubbed clean of like, you know anything bad of it, and I think, oof, for lack of better way to put it, I simply just don't like it when esports becomes too corporate, I
Yeah,
don't want like political play, I don't want like religious play, like all this other like
yeah,
stuff
yeah,
coming into esports and like trying to clean esports up. I like it. I like esports for what it is already, and I hate to be the one that says it, but
No,
esports
no.
hasn't been esports in the last couple of years. That's what I feel.
Oh yeah, I understand what you say. Yeah, what you mean. But there's another like view. I feel like correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know. I feel like in Asian countries, esports as a whole is more appealing. I want to say, or is a little bit more accepted, if that even makes sense, by the government and the society. Um,
Yep, yep.
I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like in Asian countries, it's more acceptable to be an esports player by the government and the society than it is for most of the European countries. You know,
Mhm.
I feel like
So,
I want to say that because I feel like in Greece, even though what you say, I completely agree with it. I feel like esports transitioning into more of the from going just like having the joy of playing the games and competing in LAN tournaments like it was back in the day. It has kind of swept from that to going into the more of the business side with organizations, which has kind of changed the character of the scene. But I feel like uh, it also, if this doesn't happen, if we don't go into the business side, for example, in Greece where we are from, where we don't even have a federation for esports. The government like almost like rejects the entirety of esports of anything, and it really like we're missing out from a lot of stuff that uh, like the government
uh,
and the society
like
in general
like
could
you miss
provide.
out on the perks that esports could have gotten if they were legitimized in like Greece, for example. I
Yeah.
get what you're saying there, of course. Uh, it is that it's an interesting thought process right here because in Southeast Asia, uh, the countries you're referring to, it's obviously like countries like Taiwan, China, Japan, South
Yeah.
Korea. They have like legitimized esports. But in most of my region of the world, Southeast Asia, like we're talking like Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, right,
Mhm.
Philippines, we kind of it took us a long time before we got onto the esports train. And when the esports train did come towards like outside of the world, the people that climb on board were for the mobile esports side of things. You see, like
Yeah.
mm, that I understand like your concerns about like esports needing to be legitimized, but on the other side of the coin as well, I've seen how bad it is when esports is strong, like very high, very like strongly regulated by the government. Yeah.
Can you name
Okay.
one of the, besides of
Mhm.
obviously changing the character of the scene, can you name one other factor that changed from like in esports from going into the more of a unofficial side of things
Oof.
to going into the more
Yeah.
official, legitimate side?
s-
It's a hard question.
Oof. I
I
I
know.
it's a hard question. I mean, there are parts of it. Obviously, I kind of don't want to. I want to avoid saying like speaking about it publicly. It's obviously a bit of
Okay.
politics at play, but
Yeah,
one
of
of the
course.
biggest things is that I, a prime example of it is, let's say, uh, I'll give it in the context of Singapore, for example. Let's say you want to, you're, oof, wait, give me a moment. I need to think whether
Of
I can
course,
even
man.
say it publicly.
Surely, surely.
Oof. Uh, so
Don't rush it.
one
By the
very big,
way, yeah,
yeah,
we can cut
it's
the
so one
part
very,
out. So don't worry.
I mean, yeah, you guys feel free to cut the part out if you don't
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah. Don't
it's
worry. No, I mean,
appropriate.
Yeah.
But one of the big things about it is that sponsor integrity, for example. It goes both ways, okay? So one
yeah.
of it is, let's say you want to get your sponsors approved, right? Let's say you're a legitimate org, you're under like a government funded like bill or something to play for them, right? Kind of thing. So let's say a sponsor approaches you. You
Yeah.
need to take your sponsor and you need to go up to the government and you need to get their approval of it. Same goes from the other way, the flip side of the coin now, okay?
Hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I think you guys heard the recent controversy with I believe it was ESL that was bought up by a Saudi group, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yep.
yes.
So yeah, you guys heard about like so there is obviously concerns about how like how the Saudi group views politics and like
Oh yeah,
LGBTQ rights
yeah.
and
Well,
everything like that, right? Yep. So imagine if you're pushed a sponsor from your government. Like,
Yeah.
okay, this is a theoretical. Assuming that you're a government sponsored team or your government sponsored event, and the sponsor comes to the government and then says, "Hey, push us as your sponsor, right? We'll give you the money." Government comes to you and says, "We're using them as our primary sponsor." Like now you're in a spot where, yeah, you can take the money and like better your event and better the esports scene as a whole, but you're taking money from a place where, where like you ain't too sure if you're supposed to be you want to be taking their money or not, for like the regards, for the societal regards it has,
Yeah.
kind of thing. It gets really iffy there, and I feel a lot of times when you're in that situation, you don't really have full control of what you should be doing, rather than what you can, like, rather what is forced upon you.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I feel, and I don't like esports being hostage in that position.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I understand what you mean.
And like,
but mhm, mhm.
at the same time, it's like, we know as a whole, we know as a community, as esports players, as esports figures, that we need the money to grow the scene.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
if this is how we get the money, you really start asking yourself questions. At the end of the day.
definitely.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm gonna be real about it. I don't think you guys should put that publicly on the podcast, because it's a bit of a sensitive topic, no matter where you are in the world. Like,
But
Yeah.
mm,
we know for sure, like, political figures comment about this and stuff and all, and like esports like companies and stuff don't want to talk about it, but it's a real problem that we know, as like people in the scene,
Yeah.
but we just cannot talk about it. But I think the real answer to your question initially, right, Atrox,
uh,
is that
Yes.
one big thing.
so oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Go straight ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. One big thing is corporate people don't know what esports need. They know what esports should have to grow. That's the one big problem that I have about it. You see,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
their goal is about growing esports, not bettering esports. Get it?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
And it's two different route
I
here.
think
And
they.
people always get it wrong. People that are not in the sport always get it wrong all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like the only reason where they know why they want to, instead of bettering esports, they know and want to make it. Well, sorry, what you said. Um, they want to make it work is mostly because they want to make money out of it.
Yep.
Not just
Yep.
because they want to better esports as a whole.
Yep. Basically, it's owning a monopoly on the scene. If you're the first one in and you have the monopoly on it, you're just gonna money is just gonna keep coming in,
Yeah, yeah,
kind of thing, and that's the goal for it. And I hate to be the one that says it. It's not that I hate government. I'm an anarchist kind of thing. But
yeah.
a lot of times, people in that seat end up caring more about the money generated, not the people and opportunities they have created. You see,
I mean, that goes for,
because like,
besides the government, that goes for, um, even though it will kind of sound controversial. I think nobody can deny that even besides the government and obviously the people who run these leagues, they want to make money, and even the people behind the organizations themselves, like I don't know, the head of esports or something like that, like
yep,
some guy
yep,
that, like, these people want to make money as well, even though they are in the scene, they still want to make money out of it. Like, this is their prime goal.
yep, yep. To me, it's just, at the end of the day, it's a hard topic to come about. It's practically a whole debate by itself.
Yeah,
'Cause there's no right answer to a question like this. It's always an infinite number of like what ifs,
yeah, just
he
opinions.
says kind of situation. Yeah. Uh, but it's a good like thought, like it's a good thought experiment, to have out here,
Yeah.
because it gets you thinking about what betters the scene, and like what are the problems and what are pitfalls you're trying to avoid constantly. Yeah.
Well, it's the first
And
time
like,
I hear someone talking about this the esports not being recognized by officially by the government and society, being like a like kind of maybe a bad thing. It's the first time I hear that, and it's quite an interesting perspective.
yep, it's not that I'm against it. At the end of the day, it's that I feel that when esports becomes too legitimate, it loses the what makes esports so
The
special.
character,
The
yeah,
Just like,
yeah, the
yeah,
purity.
the purity of it, yeah, the essence of esports, kind of thing, the beauty of what esports is. Yeah. And it's maybe this is like between us. You cut this part out. All right,
Okay.
like I'll say it right now. It's like the difference between how raw a CS:GO event feels, right?
Yeah.
And like how fake and how politically correct a Riot Games event or a Valorant event feels like. You get me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's what I feel is the biggest like the how to say a parallel comparison between getting controlled by the government directly and having the freedom to like dictate how esports will go and like can go
Yeah.
in your country
Well, I
kind of
mean,
sort of deal.
yeah.
Mhm.
Well, you don't even have, well, you don't have to necessarily get controlled by the government, but the government can just, because, like I said before, I don't know if that 100% applies to the Asian countries, like most of the Asian countries, but I feel like in countries like you said, Japan, China, South Korea, Taiwan, I feel like
Yep,
the government not only support, like, the government maybe controls a part of these things, but in our like most of the countries in Europe, like I don't know, like Poland, Greece, Italy, even UK, the government doesn't even, like, most of the times doesn't even recognize esports like exist as a, like sport, you
yeah,
know,
yep,
which is,
yep.
it's really bad.
Basically,
Like, you don't even have to, you don't, yeah, the government doesn't have to like get sponsors or even support esports, but at least
mhm.
recognize that
Yeah.
it is a thing, you know.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like a weird spot for you guys as well because I believe that when like if a Greek player or like let's say a Greek team does well, right? The government will take credit for it, you know. But like the government
Yeah.
never helped you guys achieve success, but they will for sure take credit for it, you
Yo,
know, kind of deal.
that
Yeah.
this is the same thing, by the way, and this is a hot topic, but like, it's the same thing with a lot of I don't know if this happens in your country as well, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a huge thing for us. There are a lot of are they called Olympians, where, like,
Yep.
athletes from Greece and other countries, where their government, for their sport, that they go into the Olympics and they win, like, they get huge achievements. The government does
Yep.
absolutely nothing to support them. Like,
Yep.
there are people in our country, for example, and this is just got into my head
Oh.
right now. There are people in our country that, like, people who have won golden medals in the Olympics, and the government didn't even pay the damn tickets to fly
Oh.
these
You don't
athletes.
know what's the worst part about that? The government probably taxes them for their winnings right
Yeah,
as they come back as well. I mean, I've been there. I've been there. I genuinely have been there. I've represented the country, did well. When I come back, they're like, "You gotta pay taxes." I'm like, "But you guys
what?
didn't even send me there, you know?
Yeah,
Like that's not fair, you know?"
Mhm.
But like
Yeah.
I said, you know, I think if you elect someone from the esports scene up to a political like seat and have say over how the scene can be run and improved, then it's fine. But if you're
Yeah.
electing any random political figure out there that has no affiliations to esports, never been in esports, never did it in his life to run an esports scene, it's just gonna go downhill. You get me?
yeah, of
Yeah.
Like
course.
you gotta get the right person to be in that seat, but at the same time, you gotta help equip the right person with the right, tools to help him run the sector of the government or like that side of the government.
A
Because
double way.
like yeah,
A double way of balancing what
yeah,
you need from the power and how the power
yeah,
controls that you
yep,
need.
yep. And like let's be like realistic for a moment here, okay?
Yeah,
How how many esports figures are there really in the political scene already? Yeah.
close to
To
none.
yeah, like yeah, and like who would want to let's say your government is against the idea of esports being a thing in your country. What's the chance of them even electing him or like creating a sector in the government just for him, to help run?
Yeah.
That's the deal,
I'll
Not
tell you
easy. It's not
the
easy convincing a room of other like 50, 60-year-old old men
yeah.
that your idea is gonna work out and you know what's best for your sector kind of thing. It's
Yeah.
not easy at all,
Well, there are
especially
people
now.
that get elected into, like, positions, but like, we know a couple of them, like in Greece at least. But maybe I'm just saying, maybe sometimes they don't want to support esports because maybe, like, just because it's not the government. Well, it's a huge cycle. It's so like
Yeah, maybe it's not their party's political agenda kind of thing,
yeah,
or
but,
maybe it
like,
doesn't look good on their resume,
you know
kind
what's
of
the
stuff.
funny thing? The funny thing is, like, these people that are in positions in the government, they do not want to support esports individually because they will not like the society doesn't accept esports, you know. But you know what's the funny thing is that if the government was accepting and was recognizing esports as an actual sport and not even helping them, just actually recognize it, maybe then the society would um, recognize esports as a sport, and then these people in the prime positions in the government would support individual esports. You know, like it's a cycle.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think.
But
Okay. So sorry. Go ahead.
oh no 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 no. Complete your answer, and I can get in that later.
Just go
I
ahead.
think Overwatch used to have a good way of getting like governments and countries involved in this, which was when they did Overwatch World Cup.
Yeah,
Like
Mm-hmm.
when they ran Overwatch World Cup, there was a lot of like country and national pride at stakes, and like teams really did work with their governments and stuff like that to really truly represent the country. Because how can you represent your country if your government doesn't approve of you representing your country?
yeah,
In most of
yeah,
these occasions, right? So it's a good way to get the conversation rolling, and we need more of those opportunities in the scene like that. And like ever since World Cup, and I don't know any other esports that has a national event like this, like any other video game. We're not talking about like a WCG World Cyber Games. We're talking about by the devs of the game themselves, because the devs of the game have more saying power and have more like how do I say it? They have more footing with the government than some random Joe hosting a tournament. You get me?
yeah,
Like I think we need more of those efforts if we really want esports to get legitimized more in different countries out there. It's an easy way to do it as well if you think about it. It's good promotion for the game devs. It's good promotion for the game.
yeah.
Yeah, like
But
it's just that we don't have World Cup anymore.
but
Bro.
you would find right for a state just regulate how esports will work to set some rules of fair play and like overseeing the competitiveness and the well-being of the players. In that part, you would you agree that the state has a role in that?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Like for sure, if you're gonna legitimize esport and you want to make esports real, the state would definitely have a say in it. Because if anything were to happen, if there was a cheating case, if there was a scandal, if like a tournament organizer doesn't pay out, at least it's good to know that the state has my back. The government has like policies in place to treat esports like it's a real job, like it's a real thing. So if you want to make it real, you know, they should be involved in it as well. They should be involved in the security and like a bit of the governance, of how esports is ran behind the scenes. Yeah.
Sure, sure. Because it will end up being a complete mess, and that's not what the players would like, the orgs would
Yeah.
like, or the state would like.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it'll be a big black market behind the scenes where like teams will money launder things like that. I can see it being a like horrific nightmare, if you don't try to regulate the scene in that way.
Sure, sure. So, we have talked with Yuris, with Jasper. I'm sure that if we could continue talking, we could talk for hours and
Yeah,
advance in things more interesting about esports, about technology. One last bit of your experience and uh, how did you fit in esports? Did you find a way in adjusting yourself with technology, with new technologies?
Sorry, do you mind repeating the question again?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Did you achieve through esports to learn new technologies better, like using better your PC, learning
Oh, yeah, yeah,
VR or something like that?
yeah,
The
yeah.
educational part of esports.
Oh, esports is definitely been educational for me in a sense where I've actually bettered myself through it because I've learned important traits like marketing, socializing, for example.
yeah,
Uh, funny enough, I've learned how to manage my assets in esports. ain't nobody gonna teach you how to do taxes in esports. You gotta learn how to,
Yeah.
pay
Yeah.
taxes yourself, kind of thing. So I've definitely like learned a lot through esports itself. Like, esports has definitely helped me better in my everyday life because I've used a lot of the team the team managing tools that I've like learned in esports to help manage my teams in real life, like my coworkers and stuff. Like I know how to interact with people. I know how to better creatively think of ideas as well. Through the tools I've learned. Because like one big thing in esports that people don't talk about a lot of times is because I can speak for it because I'm an IGL. I'm like the captain of the team. So a lot of times behind the scenes, I am thinking about ways of coming up with creative strategies and creative ideas. And that thought process has actually helped me in real life as well. It's a loop kind of thing. It feeds back to
Yeah.
what I do in real life. So at the end of the day, esports has benefited me in real life, and I think esports is beneficial. If you know what to do with the traits you have learned in esports, they will always be beneficial to you. But first of all, you just have to know how to apply them to your
Yeah.
everyday use.
Okay. Okay. In that moment, we would like to thank you very much for participating
Thank
on
you.
Mike on Mike, for sharing with
Thank you.
us all those interesting experience. Um, Jasper currently plays Apex for SRY. You will see more info about him and his socials. Uh, and you can send us your review of the interview, your questions, your notifications. Yuris, thank you again very much,
Thank you so much.
and
Thank you.
for the time being so
Late
up
for you?
so late.
Yeah.
I'm
Uh,
glad I'm glad I could just come on, to help you guys out as well.
Well,
thank you
thank you
very
so much
much.
for that.
Honestly, till the next Mike on Mike. Good evening for us. We can talk again our next episode. Bye bye, guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.